I remember, sometimes astrally travelling from my bedroom or physically standing at the bottom of the stairs looking up to a doorway at the top of the stairs, which literally was ebbing and flowing with energy and was bright white. Sometimes I would really, really want to go through that door, and then I was pulled back by unknown hands, unknown voices, discordant voices say, no, 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 this, you can't go there. That's heaven. You can't go through there. We're just showing you that that's, you know, you've got access to it, kind of thing. Come on then, let's do it, my little gorgeous.
Okay. So today I am honoured to have with me Britain's best psychic medium, Nicky Alan. Nicky, I am so privileged to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. You have been a psychic since you were a child, I believe.
Yes, my darling. Hello, lovely.
Hello.
Thank you for having me on here. Do you know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to start talking a bit posher now because I've got a darling friend called George Lewis, okay, that I met in Florida recently at a conference I was working at. And he talks like you, just beautifully. And I find that I start saying tease more. And I start going, oh, hello, darling. I'm joking.
I love the way you talk, love. I love your accent.
Your voice is so posh and lovely. You remind me of my friend George Lewis. I sound like I'm talking to a young Victorian lady. Have you got any Victorian, do you like anything about Victorian times?
Well, I always seem to have Victorian gentlemen coming through when I'm doing meditation.
Yeah, you've got a previous life during that time. Most probably the late 1800s.
Right.
I really feel that with you. Do you know what? I remember when I first had some of my old police friends come and watch me do my demonstration in the early days of me doing a demonstration of mediumship at a theatre. And they thought they were going to see something like Doris Stokes. Well, no, Doris Stokes was a bit common, but they thought I was going to be standing there in a sparkling gown going, hello, everybody, and bringing the spirits forth. And I was like, all right, darlings, right, this thing's going to come through. And they said, we thought you was going to be all posh because, like, you've been on the telly and everything. I went, no, 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 no. Unfortunately, I've still got this accent. And I live in Devon, so I thought, brilliant. I'm going to get a nice little Devonian kind of, you know, little tilt on my accent. No, that hasn't happened.
Let me just interrupt you, Nicky, because I haven't done a proper introduction. Nicky has been on TV shows. She has toured with Colin Fry, who's now long deceased, but a very famous medium. Nicky is the best medium in the UK.
Oh,
best-selling book.
Go on.
TV shows. She's had a remarkable career. She was also detective in the Major Crimes Unit of Essex Police. So a fascinating life story. Best-selling book, The Rise and Fall of Britain's Best Psychic Medium, which is a very funny, very down-to-earth book. It was so funny, and so much of it resonated. I'm a complete beginner, but I've had some funny experiences as well, and I was so pleased to read something so down-to-earth.
Yes, that's what I think has always, like, you know, kept me there, if you like, even when I had my big accident and everything. Just to keep it, and this is what the people have branded me with it, this keeping it real business, because it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be okay. Do you know what I mean? It literally simple. We are spirit people in a human body, and all we got to do is connect back in, and magic happens. It's that simple. When you say you're a beginner, you're most probably not. You're most probably totally advanced. And I bet your lot are all going, yes, thank God she's back.
I don't know about that, but I've had a lot of experiences where I seem to break unwritten rules when I don't know what the rules are, and then I'm told that I've broken them. So I've had some really awful experiences as well.
Really?
Yes. Carry on, Nicky.
Oh, thank you, darling. I didn't know, the best psychic medium makes me cringe a bit because there are some amazing mediums out there. But my editor said, you have got to put that. He said, you've got to put it as your title. So, you know, I don't want people to think it's convoluted and that I came out with that title. My editor said, no, come on now. It'll get people talking. I'm like, all right then. So, I'm amongst the best. But hey ho, I'm joking. So so going back to the beginning, for people that don't know me, my family are all non-muggles. Yes, I'm a Harry Potter fan, I have to say. And I'm actually sitting in a Gryffindor t-shirt right now. I know, I just can't help it. So anyway, I come from about at least, I think, 4 or 5 generations we've worked out of mediums, psychics and healers. And my granddad was the last of the line of the 7th son of the 7th son. There was always a 7th son, a 7th son. Now, for people that don't understand 7, you know, it's like 7 days of the week. 7 is a massive magical number, and it's also a portal number to other dimensions. I don't want to get too deep into that, but it is a big number, number 7. And so I was literally born into it. There was nothing I could do about it. I could see and feel a lot more than other people. When I was about 4 or 5, I remember sometimes astrally traveling from my bedroom or physically standing at the bottom of the stairs looking up to a doorway at the top of the stairs, which literally was ebbing and flowing with energy and was bright white. And sometimes I would really, really want to go through that door, and then I was pulled back by unknown hands, unknown voices, discarnate voices say, no, 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 this, you can't go there. That's heaven. You can't go through there. We're just showing you that that's, you know, you've got access to it, kind of thing. And I just thought that everybody could do that, you know. Oh, that's weird.
What happened?
You heard that? My Alexa's just turned itself on and started flashing again. This happens all the time. When I'm doing any podcast interviews or I'm doing anything on YouTube, something spooky happens. So anyway, things like, I remember hearing a kitten wailing, you know, that horrible, it almost sounded like a baby one day, and I must be about 5 or 6. And it was all night, and I kept getting up, and I was opening the window as a little un, and I was walking around the house. And then the following day, when I came out with my mum to go to school, there was a kitten missing poster on our lamppost just outside the house. And one of the neighbours was really distraught because their kitten had gone missing. And I thought I'd heard the kitten, but it turned out the kitten had died. And so I was hearing the spirit of the kitten, you know, and it's just things like that. And I could see people and know exactly what they were going to say. And I knew what was either wrong with them or what they were like and whether I liked them or not. And it was like this silent thing that was going on. It was almost like telekinesis. And I used to sit and look at objects knowing that I could move them with energy. And I would look at them and say, well, why aren't you moving? Because I was used to doing that with intent up in the spirit world. So I was kind of, lots of people talk about at the moment being awake, and I was born awake, put it that way. And so was my brother. So my brother, Richard, bless his heart, he ended up having a little penknife under his pillow. He had so many spirit people visiting him. He thought there were people coming in to attack him. And so he would keep a penknife under his pillow. And in the end, my dad dragged me. He literally, this is incredible, right? So my dad haunted a medium because he passed over. He passed over when I was 9 in a road accident. And 2 days later, he came and showed himself fully manifested in a car saying, I'm okay, Nikki. And I went back to the family, screamed like a banshee, how dare you say daddy's dead? And then that's when my granddad, you know, my paternal side said, look, Nikki, you're going to see people that have passed over. You're a very special girl. You come from a very long line of mediums. You're going to see angels, blah, 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 blah. So don't be scared of them. Just be scared of the living. And he was completely right with that. And that was when I really woke up, you know, when I first saw my dad 2 days after he passed. And since then, within 48, it's normally 48 hours, every single person that passes and every pet, I see them 2 days. I don't know why it's 2 days, but it's always 2 days now. So it was always there, you know. And he haunted this woman, Julie, right? He haunted her for 4 or 5 days, and in the end, if we jump over to Julie's house, right? Never met her in my life. She's like going, for God's sake, who are you? Why are you here? Because I want to talk to my daughter. I want to talk to my daughter. So it's like Ghost, really. Do you know when he's doing 99 bottles of beer and Henry VIII, right? So she's going, for God's sake, tell me then. So he said, you know, Wendy. So that was my ex kind of sister-in-law, right? My ex-partner's sister. And so she goes, I don't. So long story short, he then told her to phone her friend. And she phoned her friend and said, do you know anybody called Wendy? And so he said, well, yeah, that's my next door neighbour's daughter. And she goes, oh, for God's sake, can you just go and get her? Because I've got this spirit here. And he called Alan, and he won't leave. He's been here for like days. So he goes and knocks on like my sort of ex-mother-in-law's like door and says, "Oh, can I speak with Wendy?" How awkward is this going to be, right? So he goes, "Oh, do you know anybody called Alan that died?" He said, "Do you know someone called Nicky?" It's like, what the hell? This is going on in the background, right? So she ends up phoning Julie. So all I get is, "Hello, is that Nicky?" So I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, my name's Julie." I went, "Okay." And so she goes, "I've got your dad here." I went, "What?" She goes, "I've got your dad, Alan, here. He's driving me insane." And I went, and I got really angry because I thought, hang on a minute, this is a wind up, right? Because I'd never, apart from me and my brother, and this isn't being convoluted either, and a handful of mediums, nobody's ever been that direct with that information. And so I went, hang on a minute. I said, wait. She goes, "Oh, for God's sake, Al, if you sing Bridge Over Troubled Water one more time, I swear to God," right? And I went, oh my God, because my dad's song is Bridge Over Troubled Water. Right. When the Christmas before he passed, everybody said, "Oh wow, what do you want for Christmas?" And he said, "Bridge Over Troubled Water. I love that song. I'll have the Simon and Garfunkel album." Right. He ended up with 9 of them.
Oh my gosh.
So he kept playing it, and I remember my mum's like, "For God's sake, will you stop playing this song?" And then obviously had to send the others back. And so he very shortly after he passed made it known, and this is a very common phenomenon with spirit people that go over, they use music to let you know they're with you. So you'll walk into a shop, you know, they'll kind of say, "Walk into the shop now," because they know their song's playing. Or like my dad does, he'll just turn on a music player and it'll come on completely randomly. So as soon as she mentioned Bridge Over Troubled Water, I got there as quick as I could. I literally drove there, and she went, "Oh, thank God for that." I turned up with with Wendy, and she looked straight at me and goes, "Get in here, for God's sake." I have never in my life had the most jaw-dropping, incredible reading ever. She was this tiny little bubbly girl, and she did it in secret because her husband wasn't a believer. And my God, she would have, if she had actually had the courage to say to her husband, "Tough," and gone out there, she would have been one of the most incredible mediums of our time. She literally sat there having a conversation with my dad, and one of the things he said was, "I'm sorry that Rich had to keep putting a penknife under his pillow. If you just tell him that when I come and see him now, I've been trying to get hold of him and help him." And we used to call him Tricky Dicky. She even said that. "Tell Tricky Dicky that I'm gonna strum the guitar strings in the guitar in the bedroom, and he knows it's me." And that night, the guitar strings just went dong dong dong, and then my brother knew it was my dad.
My goodness.
And it was incredible, and everything she said was just incredible, and obviously the physical phenomena carried on from there. And so, when I think of skeptics, I just don't know how they actually live and survive in a world not knowing about all of this, thinking it's the end, because it really isn't. And so the one thing that stopped me from becoming a medium as a teenager, because I think I would have ended up doing it straight away as a professional, I was obsessed with wanting to be a police officer. I feel now, when I look back, it was mostly because as an empath, and most empaths will identify with this, we want to save the world, we want to save people, we want to help people. And so we generally do a people service, even if it's hairdressing. Most empaths, hairdressing, carers, nurses, police officers, paramedics, anything where we're going to help heal people. We have this infinite drive to want to do that. And I remember as a kid as well, I don't know why I didn't get bullied, to be fair, but I used to walk around and just note people's registration numbers of their cars, right? And I used to walk around like a nutter with my dog, right, and just write down, "Oh yeah, I'm going to write down that number plate of that car on driveways." Don't ask me why. I of them. And when the bill came on, I'd be almost be too young to even remember that, but when the bill came, that was it. I was just, "Shut up, the bill's on. No, I'm going to be," and I was obsessed. And the problem was that most of my dad's side, let's say they were interesting characters that weren't too law-abiding, were like, "What is wrong with her? How does she want to be a copper?" because my granddad, who was a guru, he was the Gandalf of mediumship. You know, he knew do Doris Stokes. He would help do cold cases like murders and things in Scotland Yard under, you know, on the quiet. And he could remote view. He could send his soul anywhere and remote view. He located my missing cousin and found her within like 5 minutes. He was just absolutely incredible. And I have more of a close relationship with him now because we became, you know, kind of separated. There was a lot of stuff that went on after my dad passed. My mum's soul broke, and there was a lot of abuse with the new partner she had, with me and her, and everything kind of got really, really traumatic. And so I became this hardened, angry, very gobby woman, and all I wanted to do was be in the police. And literally a couple of months after leaving school, I was a police cadet with Essex Police. And the thing is that everything bubbled away in the background. Like, you know, when I was being abused by the thing that she married, my mum married, I remember like afterwards I'd rock in the corner and I would hear this song, and I can't even, and it gets me emotional now because I remember it so clearly. It was like a discarnate radio playing right next to my ear, and it was like a choir. It was like, it is the most hardest thing that I could possibly try. I have tried to channel it with a composer and create a meditation out of it, but I'll tell you what that was about later on. But it was just there. And I always knew that my dad was there, and I always knew that my granddad was there. He'd come and told me he'd passed 2 days after, and I had no contact with him, which was such a shame. But now I pretty much talk to him all the time. And so in the police cadets, everything was okay, but of course I was a gregarious one. I was the one that kind of got in trouble a lot. Like in school, you know, I was like house captain and prefect, but I was one of the naughtiest ones there. They used to say, you need to find who did this. I'm like, oh my God, I did it, but I'm not. So anyway, in the police cadets, I ended up, we got caught in the end though. And we got a Black Friday, which was like, you wouldn't be able to do it now, where they just run you ragged and like make you run up the stairs and back down again for the whole day and do a 5-mile run. And it was basically a punishment day for hiding booze in my wardrobe.
Oh, Nicky.
Well, I know. So what we used to do was we used to take the drinks and go into this little corner of the canteen at police headquarters and have a little drink up. And then the problem with this is, and everybody who is a medium or someone that's started to delve into, you know, spirit messages will know that when you've had alcohol, your inhibitions kind of disappear. And so I just said to someone, oh, your nan's just come through. And so I said, she had pancreatic cancer and she only passed a couple of months ago, and you're really sad, but your mum's really fine hard. She went, oh my God, how did you know that? It started from there. People started having secret evenings with Nicky with beer and wine. It was just, so I started doing readings, to my shame, like being drunk. It was just awful. It was a very different environment back in the 80s, because it was like work hard and play hard, and there was a big drinking culture.
Nicky, sorry to interrupt you, but some of the best mediums and healers from the reading that I've done have done healings and readings with a bottle of whiskey by their side.
Absolutely
like
right.
John Sloan, the healer. He was a blacksmith, a martial artist, but he always healed with a cup of whiskey.
Oh, that sounds rather good.
Yeah, I know. So you're not alone.
No, I used to literally drink like a fish, and I was very worried because my mum was an alcoholic, God bless her. And I really, really was worried about that. But at the time, I was just the party girl. I went with the flow because I was very much a people pleaser. I had a lot of demons within me because of what had been, you know, pushed into me, if you like, what had been surrounding me during the abusive years. So I kind of believed what the abuser was telling me, you know, how useless I was and how disgusting I was and all the rest of it. And so, you know, even though I had this big, happy, gregarious, want to make people laugh front, inside I was literally boiling away on a ticking time bomb of self-hatred and self-loathing. And I make myself write these pages like I did in Me, Myself and I, the first book, because I want to show people what state I was in, because one of the biggest things, I know I'm digressing a bit, but one of the biggest things that I used to hate in my dark years, which we'll go on to in a bit, was people going, oh yes, I'm all spiritual and I'm fluffy and I'm lovely and I love life, and I think, oh, do you know what, fluff off. I use my F word, right? So I'm like, oh, fluff off. Yeah, you think you've got it all sussed, and you resent people that are saying that they've smashed it all. All you got to do is do these affirmations and do this and do that. You don't want to do affirmations. You're in a deep depression and in a deep crisis. You just want to, literally rot away. And so I made it clear about my demons, but not to the people around me. And so I was kind of the party girl, put it that way, and I did abuse my gifts. And I'm going to be totally honest, I used to literally sit there and love the attention I got, because I thought, oh, people really like me because I'm doing this, so I'll carry on doing it. And so I did these readings for people, but it then started to cross over into my police work. So I then obviously progressed on to becoming a constable. Because I was terrible, a lot of my supervisors would say, oh my God, I needed Valium. Very quickly got put on CID, vice squads, crime squads, because I wasn't a uniform, oh, you've just sped, you naughty person. I'm not going to nick someone for speeding two miles over an hour. I'm not going to do that. Parking. Just move on, mate. Not give them a ticket. I wanted to nick murderers, and I'd always wanted to be a major investigation detective. Always. And I used to run my brother and sister and say to them, I used to run murder inquiries, and Eddie and Cindy were the suspects, and I'd get my brother and sister to go and do inquiries. Oh God, they're so warped because of me. I'm only joking. And so, I literally carried on doing what I was doing. I was very ambitious, never wanted to be a mum. I literally just wanted to be a major investigation detective. Still, though, with this bubbling self-loathing underneath going on. I was quite young when I got promoted to a detective, and the problem with that is that because people knew that I was psychic, I was doing evenings of mediumship and readings for people. They were having parties, having a little buffet, and I was going around doing readings for them in the evenings. And then the problem with that was, the more you dip in and do readings and the more you start connected to the spirit world, it can cross over, and it started to do that in my policing. So I remember quite clearly fingerprinting someone, and we used to do something called TICs, taken into consideration, where we ask them, if they're responsible for any other crimes, and they'll be like struck off and just dealt with, so that at least they're detected. A bit naughty, but it's something they used to do. And this bloke had gone, no, I've got nothing to tell you. I said, well, what about that? What about that time when I said, it's only a little while ago. And I honestly thought he'd told us and not mentioned it. And I said, when you went in and tried to get the video, these are the times of videos, like the VCRs, and you tried to get the video out of the wall unit and you couldn't, and you kept pulling it, you couldn't get it out. So I said, so you wrecked the place. You tried to get the telly, you couldn't get that either. And he went, oh, you freak, I haven't told anybody about that. He goes, get away from me, you freak. I don't want her touching me. I was literally seeing him doing a burglary he'd done the week before, but never been arrested for. And he'd never even mentioned it. And he knew that I was seeing what he was doing. He knew he'd got away with it. And so he wouldn't go near me. Things like that. And when I was on a murder inquiry, when, we were interviewing the nephew of a murder victim, and when I started sitting down with him, and bearing in mind, you've got to be professional, and I'm literally looking at him and suddenly seeing him roll up his auntie in a rug after she's been strangled and set fire to her.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm seeing it while I'm sitting there with him, and I'm like, what do I do? You've got to be a professional detective. So the person I was with goes, you're right, Nick. I said, I said, can we just have 5 minutes? I'm like, oh my God, the visions I'm seeing, I can't do this. And thank God this nephew feigned having some sort of attack, so we didn't have to do the interview because medical conditions with his solicitor. Turned out he was the one that actually rolled his auntie up in a rug with the husband and took her to a site and dumped her and set her light to the car. These are the kind of things I was dealing with. It got more and more like that, and it was really hard, and especially dealing, one of the main things I was a family liaison officer. So I would go to murder victim families and be the facilitator between the inquiry team and the families, and then the murder victims would be standing there looking at me, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm trying to go, okay, I'm, DC Morley, blah, 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 blah. And they're standing there going, tell them I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm over. And I'm like, oh my God. And that was really difficult, because you've obviously got to stay in this empathic level of professionalism. And these people are raw. And you've got someone going, hi, I'm all right, I'm fine. I'm like, shut up, shut up, shut up. And they're like, no, tell them. I'm like, no, shut up, because I'll lose my job, shut up.
It's such a shame though, isn't it? Because how much comfort you could bring to them, but you literally can't. You can't tell them.
The one I did do, I broke the rules. Well, I didn't break the rules. She kind of knew, because I'd say things. She goes, how do you know that? I didn't tell you that. And after about 6 months, this lovely darling, and I have asked her permission if I can talk about this, her husband got shot in the head on the doorstep in front of her and her young son. It was horrific. It was a gangland issue. And she was absolutely beautiful. So was Ronnie, the man that was murdered. In Essex. He was just a doorman, but involved with lots of dodgy people, and was a bit of a scapegoat, and he was murdered. It was like a drive-by shooting. And when I first walked in with the family, I thought, oh my God, no, because he was standing there all muscly, very handsome man, smiling at me and waving. I'm like, oh my God. So he'd obviously been taken up, and I do say this about murder victims, and it's in the book, Rise and Fall, that they literally are taken from their bodies before any trauma happens. So they used to think, oh my God, how do they look so well? They've just been shot in the head, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Or they've been, sorry, we've got to say it, tortured or kidnapped or whatever. And I realised that because of me being a murder detective, if you like, I had so many murder victims come, even from the Ipswich murders. I had a lot of the prostitutes come from that. I also had a couple of victims from the Yorkshire Ripper come through to family that I didn't even know. They just phoned up for a telephone read. I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing the Yorkshire Ripper here. Hang on a minute. And I'm seeing, and they go, yeah, that was my sister. And I suddenly had all these murder victims coming to me. It's just starting with my brother now, because he's a full-time medium, and he's like, what is going on? Literally, they know that they're comfortable with me because I'm used to seeing murder victims and bodies and all the rest of it. So the most amazing thing is, and it made me stop, because obviously I didn't know this at this time. I was just seeing the murder victims thinking, how do they look so well? Right. It wasn't until later on, which we'll go into, that they showed me. But I might as well mention it now. They used to stand next to me. Now, if I was bringing through someone that had a heart attack or had like a brain tumour, I'd feel it. I physically feel how they pass over, right? But I couldn't feel murder victims. I'm like, that's a bit weird. And then I remember this woman who was stabbed multiple amount of times by a boyfriend. And she stood next to me and went, oh, bloody hell, look what happened. And I went, what are you standing here for? She goes, well, I'm not there. I went, really? And she said, oh, no, we don't go through that. We're taken out of it before it happens. I'm like, oh, thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me. And so what happens is, any trauma to a body, whether, and we're good, I'm going to be open. I hope this doesn't trigger people, but suicides, violent deaths, murders and things like that, the soul is whipped out of the physical body, and the physical body just literally has what has happened to them. When the soul goes up, and I've seen all this through me being taken up to heaven, spirit world, crystal palace, whatever you want to call it, they're then taken to celestial gardens where the seraphim, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. I've got so much to tell you. Oh my God, it's just serious. And and the seraphim cleanse them, heal them, and literally they are perfect, because the soul isn't killed, murdered, maimed. And so I say to them, wow, you were murdered. They go, yeah, but this woman said it's a bit like childbirth. It was horrific at the time, but I was watching it anyway. But now it's a distant memory. I don't, I know that I was murdered, but it doesn't really affect me, because the soul is infinite. It is, you can't damage it. It's just the ego and what happens to our bodies down here that makes it so real. But once you actually pass, there's, the physical body really isn't relevant. And that was a massive breakthrough for me. But I didn't know that while I was still a copper, because I wasn't fully integrating with the spirit world at that time. So anyway, going back to Larissa, after about 6 months, I said to her, oh, darling, I said, I've got to say something to you because it's doing my head in. She went, right. And because Ronnie, her husband, kept saying, Johnny Bravo. Every time I walked in, he goes, hey, tell her Johnny Bravo. I'm like, oh, my God. So in the end, I said, if I said to you, Johnny Bravo, she went, oh my God, shut up. I went, what? She goes, what? How the hell do you know that? And so I said, because not going to lie to you, darling. Ronnie's been here since day one. He looks magnificent. He was a big, beefy doorman, really muscly, really good looking. And I said, he keeps saying Johnny Bravo. And I said, he's standing by the television. And she went, oh my God, I don't believe it. She said his nickname was Johnny Bravo because he was all like blonde and muscly and looked like the cartoon character Johnny Bravo. And she goes, and he keeps flicking the channel over to Johnny Bravo when it's on. And I kept saying, is that you, Ronnie? And she goes, my God, you've just absolutely nailed it. Now I know, the love of my life is he's basically safe, and you actually proved it was him. So I could do it now and then. Anyway, the battle between me wanting to prove the afterlife and being a detective always won. However, I got a really severe back injury where I tore ribs from my spinal joint lifting a dead body up on the wrong angle. And so in the end, cut a very long story short, I was retired. It absolutely broke me. That was like my first kind of breakdown. It was horrific. However, within a couple of months, and I'm giving you a few spoilers now for The Rise and Fall, within a couple of months, the house became alive. I literally would go past light bulbs and they would explode or dim or go and then go back to normal. I'd walk into my hairdresser's before a show and, this was in advance of this, and I realised I could affect electricity. That's most of what I thought as a child. Remember, I was looking at objects and things down a whole hairdresser salon once because I was so stressed. Right? And I would have like chandeliers swinging, but then they'll stop midair, visual angle. And my partner at the time looked at it and went to Nick, goes, oh my God, what is going on in this house? And there'll be the doorbell ringing. And then the worst thing was, Nicky, at night in the bedroom, people coming into the bedroom. But I'd never had that in my life. Died to stop all that. And I'm like, whoa, what is going on? And he could hear it as well.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It really did make me think, good, I'm not going mad. He was going, for God's sake, this is ridiculous. I need sleep. And he was telling them, fluff off, F off. And I'm going, go to the light. Go to the light, how'd you do it? Go to the tunnel and all the rest of it. And F off, get out. And then the baby started crying. Oh my God, the baby. The baby was that brand new born scream that you literally really does upset you when you hear it. Wouldn't shut up. And I went to every room and then it would move to the next room and he could hear that as well. I'm like, Jesus, I just didn't know what to do. He goes, well, do you need to go to a priest? Are we being haunted? I said, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Never had this before. And then thank God my friend phoned up, Debbie, God bless her, and said, I'm really scared. Can you come with me to see this medium? Because look, my friends, they'd had readings from me and I couldn't really give them a lot, that was new. So they'd like to go to fresh mediums. So I said, no problem. So went up to the door. The door opened. The medium said to me, without even a blink, the baby won't stop crying until you serve the spirit world.
And she had never met you, didn't know you, didn't know anything about it. No.
Absolutely nothing. She didn't even know I was coming because obviously I was Debbie. So poor Debbie, this woman's just staring at me. Aggie, her name was, beautiful Irish, cheeky woman. And she goes, I haven't finished with you yet. I was going to try and do an Irish accent. I'm not even going to go there. I'll get... And so she goes, I've not finished with you yet. And I'm like, oh my God, sorry about that. So anyway, she then does Debbie a reading and then I stand up and I feel like I'm covered in cobwebs in this house. And I'm like looking, thinking, oh my God, she had done a dusting. And I'm looking and I'm like, what is this? And she comes out and she goes, oh, you idiot. She goes, that's the spirit world. You can feel all those cobwebs. It's the ectoplasm. I'm like, oh my God, this is just getting too much. And so then she said to me, you've had a really bad time. You've been let down. Dust yourself down because now your new life's going to start. And I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about. So she commanded that I was in her circle. And I went there the first week. And I'll never forget it because you do. And this is the biggest problem developing mediums have. Am I making it up? Is it my them, right? And then when you start progressing, they will start backing it up with synchronicity that will make you go, oh my God, I'm not making it up. I absolutely promise you and everybody listening. And so I remember going in, it's a beautiful circle, lovely people. And I sat in this circle. And so Aggie said, right, we're literally going to just go in. And if there's any, we had a little meditation. Then she goes, I want you to go in. And if there's any spirit people that you see, then, bring them in. And it'd all been a bit, I'm not going to lie, it all been a bit of a laugh before, glasses of wine, buffet. And it was me, oh, yeah, your granddad's here. Oh, isn't Nicky clever? But I hadn't actually sat and purposely and soberly thought, right, I'm going to work now. Come to me, and I was quite nervous. And then this most incredible man literally came. It was like a little glint of light. And then he came to me and he was like, my eyes closed, and he was black and white. And he was the most handsome man with this Grecian hair, a moustache, really lovely suit. And he was absolutely gorgeous. I cannot remember his name. So I'm going to fib because I cannot remember. It's in my journal. Say his name's Barry. And he went, I'm Barry. I'm like, oh my God. And he said, I'm here. Just tell Anne I'm here and I love her so much. I'm always with her. Now, I hadn't clocked the name of I was so nervous that I hadn't really listened to people's names. I didn't have a clue. When I walked in, I was so, oh my God, please be able to do this, Nicky, after everything, otherwise it's going to be a big letdown. Because this, Aggie had so much confidence in me. So then I came out and people said what they saw. And this is another thing that I want to say to anybody that's going into circles, don't be scared to say what you see. There are going to be people at all different levels. So some people might say, oh yeah, I saw a lovely blue light. And then, with me, it was, well, I've got this bloke, blah, 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 blah. And, you either met with jealousy. If you are, move circles. If you're not, stay there and just be comfortable that you are more advanced because you're more awake. It's that simple. So, and they welcomed it. This circle welcomed it. And so I said, this man, I can't believe it. He just floated right in front of me. And I said, and he's got this moustache, and I described him. I said, he's even got the chain. I said, I'm sure I'm making it up because that's typical of a nice, nicely dressed gentleman to have a watch chain. I said, his name's Barry, and he said that he really loves Anne. And then this woman's gone, oh my God. And it was her house that we were sitting in. She goes, I'm Anne, darling. I went, oh my God. She goes, that's my husband, Barry. She goes, hold on a minute. And then she goes to the drawer and pulls this, because she puts all her photographs away for the circle so that you don't, see something that could be subliminally feeding your mind. And she goes, is this him? And I'm like, oh my God. And it was him in the suit with his moustache and his hair Grecian back. And he always had his watch chain that his dad left him. And this was them going to their wedding. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, that's him. And it made me really emotional because what I'd seen was the exact replica of the photograph. Oh. And she went, that's my Barry. I know he's with me all the time. I'm like, oh my. And it just blew me away because I'd literally said, I want someone, bring them. Whereas before I just used to sit there and wait for them to pop in. And cut a long story short, within, I think it was about a month or 6 weeks, Aggie says, right, you're ready to go and do a demonstration in front of people. I said, oh, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. You can forget it, love. She goes, no, come on, you can do it. I'm not having it. You're doing it. I'm like, oh, my God. So I was at the Grey Spiritualist Church in Essex, right? And, oh, my God, there was about 100, 120 people, boiling hot evening. I'm sweating and shaking like a pooing dog. That's what I put in the book. I was beyond terrified. And the problem is that when you are young, I was most probably 33, 34, people kind of think that mediums are big and wear flowy clothing and look a bit weird and are quite old, right? That's their kind of look of a medium. I don't know why they do that. So I had jeans on and just a floaty top, and they must have thought, oh my God, who is she? She don't look like she can do much. And I have to add now that lots of mediums, when you're saying about John Sloan with the whiskey, we do have addictions. This is what I was always aware of, is that a lot of mediums have addictions, smoking, drinking, eating, because one, eating and having a bit of weight on us makes us feel like we're more protected from other energies. And so what we tend to do is, and Doris Stokes said this to my mum, she said, basically, we feel like we need an extra layer to protect us. And so we kind of eat like as a subconscious protective layer over a physical body we don't want to be in. And also the high, I can't tell you, you'll know what it's like.
Yeah, that's what I loved reading in your book, because the thing about, is it my imagination? Am I just making this up? You are constantly, as a beginner, which I am, you are constantly questioning yourself. Am I just making this up? And then the only way that I've learned to distinguish what is real and what could be my imagination is I get a physiological reaction. When it's a genuine spirit really close to me, my heart goes faster. But I've said to tutors about this, and they've kind of said, well, no, our hearts don't go faster. We don't get that reaction. So I thought I was wrong. But I get like my flesh comes alive. I feel my whole body starts to come alive, and my adrenaline shoots up. So I know I'm not imagining it, because there's nothing else that would make it go up like that.
Absolutely right. You feel like you're in a bath of lemonade or champagne.
It's the biggest high you can imagine.
Exactly.
It's like the most thrilling feeling of excitement.
That's exactly it. Now, that is how a spirit feels. That is what energy they reside on in the spirit world, right? So we remember that. So the problem with that is that lots of mediums and light workers have problems with addictions because they're trying to find the same high.
Oh.
Yeah. So most mediums I know either like a drink, smoke their faces off, and I was really wary of that, because obviously, and it's really good now because I hardly drink, I don't smoke, and I think, I've done really well. I just eat like a fat pig. But do you know what I mean? And you, all of them are like it. And it's trying to find that same high that you get when you're connected with a spirit person. You get heart palpitations. Your hair goes up on the back of your neck and on your arm.
You do literally get goosebumps. You do, yes.
But wait, and this is a good lesson for other people listening. If you go to these people and they're saying what doesn't make sense to you, move on. Circles and development workshops, take what you need and just jump off and go to another one. There's stepping stones to development, because especially for people that have like go in as a beginner but they're advanced like I was met with resentment, jealousy, and the times that I nearly gave this up through people being vitriolic and nasty against me, and the best story, if you remember, which I call, excuse me, the bitch. That was just the best ever. It was the best ever, because I'll jump onto that in a minute, but that first show, I literally stood there thinking, what am I doing here? This is rubbish. And the problem is you have to really, really pull your ego in and pull your doubt in and pull the left-hand side of your brain in, because you can break links doing that. So I'm like, it's all made up. I've just been a lucky guesser. And all this panic went through my ego system.
Like I keep saying, I'm a total beginner, but the thought of going on a platform, I mean, I couldn't, because I'm not that good, but just sitting in my development circle. I mean, last week we were given a crystal and told to do readings. I'm thinking, what the hell? Well, what does the crystal speak to me then? It was the most excruciating experience of my life. And every week I'm there with a knot in my stomach, because you are so worried that you're making it up or it's not going to be right. So the thought of actually going on a platform in front of people doing it is the most nerve-wracking thing you could ever do. You've got to have so much courage to do it.
Absolutely. But then it's not about courage, it's about trust. It's about trusting. Like, if I had to get up on stage and do a talk about, mind you, I could pretty much talk about anything, but what I'm trying to say is, if I had to go up and just do a show, it would about anything, I would be rubbish. I'd be like literally like falling over my words. I wouldn't know what to say. I'd be really, but as soon as I link into the spirit world, I am terrified. Every single show I've ever done, and the biggest one was 5,000 people, right? And I'm like, I've got to go on here, and it's with Colin Fry, and I'm like, I've got to be good, because they're going to think, my God, what's he got her here for? So all the ego stuff starts. I'm shaking, I'm soaking wet. I'm in a stupid bloody ball gown, because that's what he made me wear, right? Rather than jeans and a floaty top. And I'm standing on the stage, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to literally poo my pants. And then bang, that person will come to me, and that's it. I literally let them take over, and I don't ever make a mistake in my words. I just literally bang, they're there. And before I know it, it's the end of the evening. And so it's about trusting. And if it's the biggest problem to development is ego, analysing everything, doubting, and saying, was it or wasn't it? Because what you're inadvertently doing, and this is what I say to people, and it's not harsh, but you know, you are literally not trusting your guide, and you're almost insulting them by saying, oh no, but is that real? And they're like, Jesus, what more do you want me to do? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Well, I don't mean you, I just mean generally.
Oh, no. It's so difficult, Nikki, because so for me, I will get a link, I'll give, let's say 5 or 6 bits of totally accurate information.
Yeah.
Then I give one that's wrong. Then my confidence goes. Then my stomach is clenching, the nerves set in, the brain's telling me, is that right or wrong? And the confidence is gone. And it's just a repetitive pattern for me.
How do you know it's wrong? How do you know it's wrong?
Because the person sitting with me tells me, no, I don't recognise that.
Right, okay. So let me tell you about this. My biggest, and again, this is in, I think, is it in Rise and Fall? It is in Rise and Fall, where I go to Bethnal Green, right? And
it was all rejected.
Yeah, and they literally looked at me like a piece of crap. No. And I stood there thinking, oh my God, because they didn't know me, they were judging me. I was new there. They were a tough crowd. I was very young. I should never have accepted to go there. I was very young, and it was a community hall in the middle of a rough estate, and the people were hardcore. And someone had phoned up and said, oh, can you do this for me? I don't feel very well. Now I know why they gave it to me. And me, oh yes, I'll go and do it. And I stood there, and this was my lesson for no's. Okay, now listen to this, and you remember this, my darling, and everybody else that's listening. I stood in front of this crowd, and they were rough. They were smoking, they were drinking. It was just so not a spiritual environment, okay? And it was way beyond anything I was used to. I was like a little kitten in those days. I'd only been like professional for a little while. And so I'm like, oh my God, this is really hard. First 2 links, right? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And they're looking at me, and then people are smirking at me, started talking like, she's crap, looking at me and raising their eyebrows and going, and can you imagine? Right, I want to cry my eyes out, because by this time I've gone from roughy tufty copper to I cry at bloody Lassie film, bloody adverts saying the donkeys are like being abused. I cry at everything, because as an empath, when you start waking up and going on your spiritual path, you have to be sensitive. And my God, do they make you sensitive? You cry at happy things. You cry at just for crying's sake. It is just hell.
Yeah, it's like, horrific, isn't it?
Yeah, I was turning into this soft, bloody, just walk all over me. I'm just stuck. I'm done. So I literally went, and I went, no, don't cry. And it was in my throat. Do you know when it's in your throat, and if you swallow it down or just let it out? And I thought, do I cry and run out, or do I stand here? And obviously this is all edited in the book, but this is the full, true, exclusive story, right? And then my stomach is not in, because they're going, no. And I'm like, yeah, definitely right. And then my nan comes in, and it's normally my granddad or my dad says, don't you put up with this fluffing nonsense, get on with it, right? But my nan come in, she goes, don't you dare start crying. And I'm like, oh my God, Nan, please. She goes, don't you dare stop crying. It's their fault. I'm like, no, it's not. I've got it wrong. Don't be ridiculous. So she goes, right, hang on a minute. So she goes off, and obviously she finds something, a spirit person. There's absolutely no denial whatsoever, right, with this one. And it was a corker. So she comes in and brings this young lad, right, a young teenager. I don't know what that is beeping, because everything's turned off in here. Anyway, whoever's beeping, whatever it is, I don't even know what it is. There's a bell ringing and everything's turned off. So whoever you are, come in if you want to. So anyway, what happens is that there's this young lad, he's stabbed, okay, and he's killed on the corner of a road. And I'm going to make the street up because I haven't got permission to actually give the full details. And I honour people's privacy. So let's say the name is Station Road, right? So he drops down on the corner of the street of Station Road, right? And let's call him John, right? So I say, oh my God, I've got this boy. And I thought, because my nan's going, go on, go on, go on. And my nan was a very gentle person, but she like comes in, if I've got operations, come on. She's really strong now in the spirit world, right? Just goes, come on, come on, come on. So I'm like, okay. So I said, right, I've got this boy. I said, he's about 13, 14. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. His name is John. And he actually dies right next to the road sign, Station Road. And I said, and it's just a horrific thing. It was a gangland that come and did it just for an initiation. And nobody's ever found, oh my God, that's my boy. And this woman stands up. I'm going goosey now, darling, right? So I'm going goosey and going up. My whole body's in lemonade now because I remember the feeling of that adrenaline, my heart in my throat, bang, 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 bang. Because this boy is standing right next to me going, you've got my mum, you've got my mum. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God. And that is when you know spirit are with you because you literally are alive inside and out. So then she goes, oh my God, that's my son. And then the uncle's there, the nan's there, the whole family are there. And then suddenly everybody's going, oh my God, this girl knows what she's talking about, right? So then this message, everybody's crying because everybody knew the boy that was killed, right? It is just absolutely transformed this whole. And suddenly the first woman puts her hand up and goes, actually, you were talking about my dad, but I wanted my husband through. I'm really sorry. Can you bring him back? I went, no, I can't actually. Second person. Oh, actually, yeah, that was my mum, but the name wasn't right. So I said, what name did I use? She goes, oh, that's my sister's name. That's not my mum's name. And I'm like, oh my God. So I get in the car, right? And I cried. I don't know why I cried. I think it was because of the humiliation and then the beauty of that. If I could have walked away and not brought a murdered boy for the first time ever to his family and bring them comfort, right? And closure. It was the biggest lesson of my life that you never, ever, ever listen to someone saying to you, no. You listen to the spirit person and your own energy. And if you know it's right, you tell them. So people that have watched me work know that I always say at the beginning, I don't care if you say to me, no. If I know it's right, and this isn't my ego, I say to them, if I know it's right and the spirit person tells me it's right, you have either forgotten it, you can't think of it at the moment, or someone else will validate it for you when you go home. Because I will always trust and believe the spirit world, the angel, whoever's communicating with me, and not your memory. So for all you know, that person in your circle could have gone home and thought, oh my God, yeah, I know what she's talking about now. And I'm telling you, spirit world is 100%. Okay, yes, we can misinterpret things. Yes, we can get it wrong, but we just get right back on that horse and go, I'm sorry you don't understand it, but can you just take that back with you? Because I'm telling you, I know it's right. Or you think, oh, have I got that bit wrong? So you go back to the spirit person and you say, have I got that wrong? And then you just stop and then you feel. And if they give you that boost, you know, the boost I'm talking about, adrenaline boost, you go, no, I'm sorry, darling, this is definitely right. I know you say no to me, but I'm telling you, he's insisting it's right. Okay. Or if you get that, yeah, I could have got that wrong. Let me go back and try. And this is what I've had. I had someone come from the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain come to one of my workshops, right? And he was one of the top mediums working there. And he said to me, I'm interested because you say that you can go in and do interactive mediumship and ask questions to the spirit person. I went, yeah. He said, you can also ask for other spirit people to come through with that family cluster. I went, yeah. He goes, how do you do that? And I'm like, hang on a minute, you're one of the, the highest mediums going. What are you talking about? He goes, I didn't know you could do that. And I'm like, well, yeah. So I then go and ask him. So, and I remember I always said to my granddad, because my granddad used to talk to him, and my nan used to go, Fred, you're talking to a dead one again. He used to go, hello. And he used to have to touch them to see if they were real, right? So I said, oh, I vow I'll never be like that, because everybody think I'm a nutter talking to them out loud. Do it in your mind, do it in your mind. But after a while I thought, oh, do you know what? I don't care. So I now talk to them out loud. And I say, talk to me, tell me, right? And so I literally say, tell me, am I wrong, am I right? She's saying she doesn't understand that, darling. Can you tell me? And they'll tell me, you're right, or no, I said this, I meant that. I go, oh, okay, sorry, I got it wrong, darling. He's saying, do you know what I mean? Talk to them. They are still here. They're still people. They've still got their memories of this existence this time round. They just haven't got a physical body. So talk to them. You know, people make it so difficult for themselves, thinking, oh, I've got to connect with the spirit world. It is so easy because we are spirit already. All we're doing is merging, blending, connecting with something that's already there. And people make it so huge. Oh, we've got to contact. And do you know what? This is, you know, I can't implore enough about circles. I remember going to a circle, right, sitting there, and I've been seeing spirit since my dad's. Well, mostly before that, right? So that's what mediums do. So I'm sitting in this circle, and I thought, hello, we've got a physical, because some of them are really good at physical stuff, right? Hello, we've got a physical spirit here. And the door starts going, opening, right? And she's gone, what's that? What's that? I went, oh, there's a spirit person going to come in. They're moving the door. She goes, tell it to go away. Tell it to go away.
That's the funniest thing in your book. That's what you're there for. And she was screaming to tell her to get out.
I'm looking. Tell it to get out. And I'm like, what? I don't need that in my house. I said, what do you think we're doing here? And I'm looking at the other people. I'm like, are you serious? She was absolutely crapping herself. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, and the thing is, the reality of what they are made me go, I'm not going back there. What a load of pants, you know. And I literally went from another circle to another, the writhing woman that was saving thousands of Christian soldiers. And then I ended up, my dad saying, oh, this is crap, just do this. And then I'm writing in bloody complete French of, I can't remember his name now, St. Vincent or whatever, it's in the book. And then when she comes out of it, I'm like, don't listen to her. She was writhing, opening her eyes to see if we were looking at her. And I'm writing a channeled message from some spiritual guru from the 17th century France or whatever it was. And people didn't like it. And I just thought, I'm just literally showing you that this is bullshit, excuse my French, right? And I think that's why I've kind of maintained a respectable following. Because even when I had my road accident and was in bed for 5 years, you know, all of the solid people that had seen me work and the people that weren't shallow stood by me, even though I disappeared off of the radar for years, to heal myself. And for the angels, that's another story in itself. That's in the book about, you know, me having a road accident, being 5 years in bed, being homeless, losing everything, and just literally having to face me and my soul. And I had the most, oh my God, horrendous but most beautiful spiritual boot camp of my life, where they eradicated all my demons. So now, as I sit here talking with you now, it's through pure joy. It's through self-love that I want to say, yes, well done, Nikki. You're talking to a beautiful, beautiful Steph, who's amazing and enabling all these wonderful messages. Not, oh, please like me. Oh, please, everybody listen to me. It's a completely healed energy that Nikki works from now. It's a space of self-love and just a need now to educate humanity and bring humility to the masses, because that's what we need at the moment. And, you know, going back to the seraphim, it's just, everybody says to me, yeah, but prove it. No, I don't have to prove anything. Just listen to what I say on my YouTube channel, read my books. And that's not a plug. It's just, I could go on, I could literally talk to you for weeks on all of the experiences that I've had.